Let's bring in USA Today columnist and ABC News contributor Christine Brennan. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Just explain the significance of this decision by the NFL to pledge that race norming won't be used in the brain injury settlements.
This is a significant victory, Lindsay, for the players, especially the black players. And the league is 60% black now. More than half of all the retirees are black. And to think that there was the assumption that blacks start, with a worse cognitive function and a score, kind of a baseline. So, of course, that means it's harder for them to show there's a deficit and win awards. And so what the NFL is saying, they're going to go back and look at all of those that may have been in question and try to get those awards taken care of. This is a big victory for those players. It is a look at history that is ugly, and obviously the NFL does not want to be a part of that anymore. And they are going to go and look at this. The NFL's spokesperson, Brian McCarthy, said retroactively they'll be going back. The players fought this for several years, their wives, and they really, there was a civil suit, there were petitions, the judge was looking at it again. And today the NFL said we were wrong, and we're going to go back and try to do this right.
And just to be clear, when you say that they're going to go back, does that mean that they're going to go back and pay all of these players who they'd previously denied their claims?
What the NFL is saying is that they are going to go and have a panel, which would include several black doctors and several women doctors, which is good news for the players who have been very suspicious, understandably, of what the NFL is doing, and reevaluate those cases. So the idea that the deficit was so low that there would then be not an award for those black players, these are retirees, of course, we're talking about, with some CTE or cognitive function issues. They will go back and look at those and evaluate whether the decision originally was right or wrong. And if it was wrong, they will then give those players the award that they deserve, as opposed to getting nothing, as was the case with many of them.
How do you feel like this fits into the larger conversation that this country has been having on issues of addressing issues of systemic bias?
Absolutely. That you cannot take this story out of our larger context, Lindsay, of our culture and where we are right now. As I mentioned earlier, the NFL is 60% black. Black Lives Matter, all of the issues that we've been talking about in the last year, obviously they're different issues. It's not the same as concussions, but it is still part and parcel of the same national conversation. And it is really wonderful to see what has happened, an awareness of these issues, that these black lives and these men who have toiled for years in the NFL and been cheered by fans, they do deserve this second look. And I think it is the NFL especially, as a bellwether, as our biggest pro sports league, as the league that is by far the most popular. They could not do something in this climate at this time in 2021, where there's a sensitivity, absolutely correctly so, about issues that for so many years were ignored.
And do you feel like it's way overdue?
Oh, this is absolutely way overdue. This idea of this race norming was apparently in the 1990s. And it's really stunning. I'm sure many people, this might be the first they're hearing of it. And it's like, wait a minute, this was actually happening. And this was then depriving these men who are dealing with such cognitive dysfunction, and whether it's Alzheimer's or other memory issues because of concussions, because of CTE, because of the way the NFL treated head injuries back in the day. It was not right. It wasn't good. And to think that this has been going on and they've had to fight this fight and fight for several years to do it. And it's a big victory. It's a big victory for them. And it's a big victory, I think, for anyone who cheers for the NFL, to look at these players and these heroes from the past and say they deserve this. They deserve to have to get more. They deserve at least a second look, to be evaluated the same as their white counterparts.
Former NFL running back Ken Jenkins responded to the NFL's decision by saying, "Words are cheap. Let's see what they do." The NFL has a complicated history on handling former player claims. Did the public pressure force this change, would you say? Or was it just a matter of it's 2021 and this so-called racial reckoning that's been happening in the past year?
Lindsay, I think it was a little bit of both. Certainly, we're more aware of issues that we should have been aware of a long time ago, but at least we're aware of them now. So I think that's a piece of it. And then I think also it was pressure. There were 50,000 petitions that were delivered. The judge said that she wanted to look at this again. You had a civil lawsuit from two of the players. You had real pressure being put on about the inherent unfairness of this system that was depriving these black players of the same kind of award as white players were getting for basically the same injury. And it just didn't seem right. So I think there was pressure. And even though maybe most fans haven't spent that much time thinking about this, when you hear about it, when you look at the headlines, when you actually read what's happening, the NFL is changing course today. They are saying enough is enough. They're going to do business now in a different way. It certainly makes sense that there was pressure, that it was wrong. The NFL and those around the NFL now realize that, and they're moving forward in a different way. And I think it's a victory for those players. These players, again, who have been wanting to get some money, wanting to be able to have better lives, even as they've been fighting these very debilitating diseases of head injury, brain trauma, and Alzheimer's and other diseases like that.
And as you know, Christine, the NFL has long been under scrutiny over its handling of concussions and their long-term impact on players. How have they changed their approach in recent years on that issue?
In the last 10 years, Lindsay, they have been doing better. Frankly, they couldn't have been doing worse for the longest time. The old days of just telling a guy, go back in there, you got your bell rung. And for the number of times I quoted a coach, in the 80s and 90s saying, oh, he got his bell rung. He went right back in there. How horrifying that sounds now. And so there are independent observers. There are procedures. You can't just have a player go right back in the game, say, I'm fine. Of course, the players always say they're fine. The coach can't just send a player back in. There are independent observers. There's a protocol. They must go through it. No one just runs back on the field. It's much more based on observation by medical experts as opposed to the coach telling a player, as they did in the old days, to just go back out there and tough it out. And that's good. It's still a very violent game. It's still a game that is very concerning, and especially for kids who are playing that football, of course, other sports as well. Head injuries are a big conversation now. But I think because of the last 10 years, the concussion movie, all the work by Boston University with its research, I think there's more of an awareness now, and that has obviously trickled up to the National Football League in terms of the way they treat these concussions, especially with independent and medical observation, where, again, just a coach cannot tell a player to go back into the game.
The triple up effect at work. Christine Brennan, thank you always for your time and your insight.
Lindsay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.